Okay, by popular demand, I have the presentation of my discussion with speed of sound of gravity and my critique. I'll just make a critique as I go along if I can. Let me go ahead and share it. Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, can't do it. Okay. All right. So we just go ahead and start. I'm going to actually play it at a faster rate because it really takes a long time. So I'll just go ahead and bump it up a notch. What do I got here? I got the wrong setting here. I'll get it straightened out.
So to the audience and let everyone know a little bit about you.
Okay, Speed of Sound. Speed of Sound of Gravity is the name I was stuck with on YouTube. And I need subscribers. Please make me feel better. Watch my...
Go show Speed some love, please.
Yeah, come on. No, I'm a hard atheist, strict naturalist is how I describe myself. Also a Buddhist. So a materialist Buddhist, sort of. And I don't know, I'm passionate about philosophy of the mind, genetics, and evolution. And I fight creationists for a living lately.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, excellent. Mr. Jungle Jargon, good morning to you, sir. And yet again, I have to say congratulations on your retirement. This is a recent thing for Mr. Jungle Jargon. So he gets to be a full-time warrior of the Lord now, it seems. Sir, please tell the audience a little about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And thanks to Speed of Sound of Gravity for also having a discussion with me. I'm recently retired, and I'm a former MK, which is a missionary kid. And I'm pretty enthused about the Word of God and its message and its hope and for all people. And one of the things that seems to be hindering people from understanding the Word of God is evolution. So I have as my objective to annihilate evolution.
Beautiful. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you for that introduction. Okay, well, the way we have this basically structured is more around just a friendly conversation. It's not a debate. We don't have any planned openings, but we did kind of discuss before we went live, kind of taking at least an affirmative position so that we have somewhere to jump off from for our conversation. Our topic is kind of loosely based, but we are going to be discussing within the realm of evolution and beliefs and how beliefs function and facilitate towards evolution and vice versa. And Mr. Speed of Sound of Gravity, sir, the mic is yours. You have the floor. Feel free to get us started.
Okay, so one of the first things I noticed when I came into or found the creationist community online, and I was shock and awe, was this constant use of the term evolutionist. You know that, and I know some geneticists use it, and it's like, okay, you're an evolutionist, and then this, what seemed to be an accusation that it was just our belief, or that we had a religion, that evolution was our religion, and so I started pondering and thinking about beliefs and faith, which are things that I thought about all my life, and in terms of believing in evolution. And I started questioning, you know, do I believe in evolution? Is evolution a religion for me? I don't even know what that would mean. I'm hoping somebody can tell me. So just, you know, we would like to have a conversation around the issue of evolution. And I have some questions for Jungle about this pushback against evolution. Like he said, that he wants to destroy it. Good luck with that, dude. It's pretty big. It's like a tidal wave.
I have my work cut out for me. Yeah.
Yep. Basically, evolution is part of evolution is the story of how we got here, the mystery, and it's a historic reconstruction of, you know, what begat what and how we got here. And there's this common ancestry, which is, there are certain terms that creationists use far more often than any geneticist, pop geneticist, or biologist. Charles Darwin is one thing that that you guys talk about more than I have ever heard before. Nobody cares that much about Darwin in the field, and things like evidences and refuted and rebutted and Darwinism, there's evolutionism. These are all things that are really not talked about in scientific papers or in scientific circles. And in fact, I had not really thought about a lot of these things a great deal until I listened to you guys. So anyway, I'm wondering, we definitely have different ideas about this historic reconstruction, the telling the historic story of what begat what. And that is a part of evolution, and it is a sort of the underbelly, but the most of evolution has to do with what's happening in genetics today, what's happening to genomes today, how they're changing, and how they progress throughout our life. Of course, I'm 69 years old, and the reason I don't look as cool anymore as I used to is because mutations happen all through your life in that soma line. And these are the things that medicine and biology are really concerned with right now. Of course, we're concerned with our environment and our crops and all of that. So a big part of evolution is studying the genome and how it modifies. So I mean, that's where most of the science is. So if you got rid of evolution tomorrow, the pharmaceutical industry would be done for. Basically, it depends right now on this research that's going on with comparative genomics.
Of course, I would disagree with that. You could get rid of evolution yesterday and it wouldn't affect anything anywhere in the world because you don't need evolution for anything. Variation of species is one thing. Genetic drift is another. And adaptation to the environment is another. Loss of information is another. But evolution, writing instruction that's not there, is something that doesn't exist, and you don't need it for anything.
And building phylogenies and studying the courses of genes. So anyway, that's kind of my opening.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Jungle, would you like to respond, or would you kind of just move into type of a question-answer engagement?
I guess we'll see.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, I'll give you a couple minutes if you kind of want to just give an overview response to what he said, or if you just like to kind of go right into conversation, that's fine too.
I'll try to do an overview.
Okay, go ahead. Feel free. Take your time. Go ahead.
Yeah, so evolution has quite a few assumptions, beginning with deep time. A whole lot of time that we just really don't understand even the numbers of how much time would be needed for genetic, modification would change with reproduction over time. Just that alone would go in the billions of years, and there really is that kind of history on Earth. And the assumption is that copying errors are going to somehow be productive and combine to make all the working mechanisms inside of us that we have as fully formed human beings, and of course all of the other animals as well that are unique to the environments which they live in, which they have actually adapted into. Because of course, I believe the world was destroyed once already, and the environments have changed drastically, and we have had to adapt accordingly. One way is by the size of the animals, because things used to be really huge, including some humans, and the size has been reduced dramatically, and also the lifespan of humans, according to the records that we have, has been reduced as well, like cut in half at twice or three times even. So that there really is no mechanism for evolution, and there's no time for evolution. So, and I'm not prepared with a huge, mass media presentation or anything right now, but I have one graph that I would like to show, in a little bit, maybe, if we get into the discussion.
Okay. Beautiful. Excellent. Well, beautiful. Speed, now that you've kind of heard that, would you like to open with some question time, perhaps to just kind of ask Jungle on some of his perspectives, and we can kind of move that forward in an engagement now that you kind of have his perspective?
Sure. He brought up this how organs form and how things happen and the size of animals, and that I would like to table. Hopefully we'll get to that later, because that is the most exciting thing that I love to talk about. But I kind of wanted to frame this more about the differences in why you have a set of knowledge throughout your life, and I have a set of knowledge throughout my life, and yet we have completely oppositional views. And I'm interested in how that can be and why that is. But I have a question that I would like to ask you, Jungle. If a Christian did everything else right, like accepted Jesus and never did his best not to sin, gave himself to Jesus, or whatever it is that's part of your program for getting into heaven. But there's just this one thing: he believed in old Earth evolution. Would he go to hell?
Well, the idea is to tell the truth, and he wouldn't be telling the truth. And there's no liars in heaven, so it complicates things. I wouldn't want to be the judge to say that what's his name, William Lane Craig, doesn't get to go into heaven, or even people like other people that believe in old Earth.
But I mean, he's not lying to anybody. He just believes this internally. He never tells anybody about it. It's just what he thinks.
Yeah, he would obviously be corrected and probably, be ashamed. And as the point is, I wouldn't want to be ashamed either.
You could be ashamed in heaven.
Well, see, that's the point. Is in order to be a Christian, you have to be sanctified. You have to be, unashamed before God. And that's the whole point.
So you think he would go to hell, basically?
No, I wouldn't want to be the one to make that choice, but it is a serious thing, and it does confuse a lot of people.
Okay,
and I don't want to, jump over the fact that there's a lot of assumptions in evolution, and requires a lot of time and a lot of, changes from mistakes that I don't really see happening. Of course, there's adaptation, but that's part of the genome of the organism, and it's never really going to change what it is. It's just going to adapt to its environment as best it can.
How do you know that?
Well, we observe. It's what we observe, and if there's no instruction for it to be anything else, it's not going to be able to find the instruction to be anything else.
And you know that how? What textbooks have you read? What's your expertise in biology?
Well, I would ask you this: are all the genomes all the same for, between hummingbirds and whales and pigs and humans?
You just answered my question with a question.
Yeah, it's not the same genome. How do I know? I know because I can see the result of what the instruction does.
Okay.
And it's a prediction. It's a creationist prediction that's bearing out to be true, that the instruction is not the same between different organisms. There's a lot of instruction that humans have that chimps don't have, that gorillas don't have, and between every different living organism, each organism is unique to what it's directed to be.
Okay. But you believe that there were 2 cats that jumped off the ark, right? Only 2.
I'm not sure about that. I think there may have been, a lion, a tiger, and a leopard, or some facsimile of that, and maybe a caracol or something. But
I haven't heard that from any other creationists.
But then again, I mean, if it was, it would have had to speciate or within the first 100 years, which I guess is possible.
Within the first 100?
Yes, because of the fact that the continents broke apart between South America and Africa, and we have the jaguar and the leopard separated, and they're both the same animal, and they're still, very much the same animal as opposed to lions, tigers, and other things.
So, but the thing is, now we're here in 2020, and that was 4,400 years ago, and there is a lot of history that happened, or there's a story of evolution between now and back to the ark, right? 4,400 years ago, how this speciation happened. That is a story of evolution, and you would oppose studying that?
Well, there is variation of the same species. Like there's variations of different monkeys, and we know they're the same monkey, but there's different variations, and all kinds of different animals, and yet there's a lot of animals that remain the same, such as the jaguar and the greater grison of South America. That's almost identical to the honey badger.
Okay, but some things did change. There was some speciation.
Right. There is some variation even in the greater grison. There's a lesser grison, and there's also another honey badger type animal which has a totally different a color coding, a white head and neck and black shoulders and tail.
And if you compare the genomes between those two, do you find variations in any of the coding regions for proteins or any of the regulatory regions?
Well, between those honey badger type animals, they would be almost identical. Just the coat would be a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, but what makes it different?
Well, it has a different family tree, or branch on the family tree.
No, I mean, what in the genes make a difference? Because we can observe that. We can put that in the laboratory. We can figure out how the embryo develops.
Yeah, because the genes are different numbers of copies of the same information. That's what we are as humans. When you compare my Y chromosome to somebody else's Y chromosome, it's different numbers of copies of the same information.
No, it's far more than that.
Yeah, this is a denial of what the Y chromosome is. It's different numbers of copies of the same information. It's like, we're going to get into a lot of denial of what actually is. When I make a statement and then he'll just deny it and try to move on. It's really a little bit annoying.
There are certain regions that are different. Like there'll be, for one it's called a locus, or it's one particular location in the gene, and there are what you call alleles, and you can have two of them. But if you look across the population, you might find as many as 100 variations, and these are from mutation, and that has a lot to do with speciation and how and the difference between. I mean, that's how things changed when they got off the ark. There was some mutational speciation. It didn't just all happen by copy number variation. That's a small part of it.
And it's going to make funny faces and stuff like that, but it's really going to still be the same animal, though.
Yeah. The cat kind, basically cats, and all the kinds are still the same animal.
Right.
So So what else is in the house cat kind? I like
the house cat. I would guess that's a huge deletion of a lot of information, because the house cat is not even as smart as the bigger cats.
My cats beg to differ.
Well, according to
Let me get 'em over here.
the neuron studies of the house cat, they have less neurons or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
I had not read that. They'll be sad to hear this. Anyway, okay.
And of course, they're not as smart as dogs.
Yeah, and you know all this because you've studied genetics and you've gone through the coursework.
I know, because I have an interest in it, and I follow the stories that I'm interested in.
Where do you follow them at?
Well, different publications that come out whenever a new scientific study comes out, or like they came out with the study that showed that there's one kind of whale that actually has more neurons than humans, or is actually technically smarter than humans. But
Notice here, he's asking a bunch of questions and I'm giving him answers. And if I ask him how there's a mechanism, he's not able to give an answer for a mechanism for evolution.
But most whales aren't.
Yeah, and that's the other point that I had on overall how we believe, and the difference between creationists and my religion, evolutionism, is that we don't like read a paper or go on the internet and find various papers, and we read one paper and we say, oh my God, the entire theory has changed. We don't do this find one evidence, like you call it evidence and evidences, or you ask atheists or evolutionists, you'll ask them, what are your best evidences for evolution? All of that stuff is not the way we think or talk. So that's one of the differences between us, that I don't go and read a paper and say, oh my God, this paper is, for instance, John Maddox on mRNA came up with this phylogenies are inverted. Well, it's one guy, one paper, one set of studies, very persuasive, definitely tells us something about what's going on, but we don't read that and say, oh my God, evolution is over because we read this paper.
Well, you wouldn't question the study that says that there's one whale that has more neurons in the brain than humans, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure they do. They have very large brains.
It's only one species though.
One species has more neurons.
Yeah, the rest don't have us.
Okay, is that a paper? Do you have a reference for that paper?
Not right now, but I'm sure you can find it if you look for it.
What would I look for?
Well, it's the way I found it. I looked at different, intelligence of animals, and it shows a chart of all the different animals that are, and how they rank. That's how I knew that dogs are smarter than cats. And it ranks all the animals as to their brain sizes. I mean, not only the brain size, but the neurons, because elephants have bigger brains than us, but they don't have as many neurons or something. And
Is it the long-finned pilot whale?
it must be, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know how we got down that.
That sounds like the one, yeah. But anyways, yeah, I just look for facts is what I'm looking for, not theories or conjectures or beliefs, but just facts. And I do have, a history. I'm almost as old as you. I'm 62.
Yeah.
So I've been around, and I pretty much know how to put the information together. And as a side note, I actually had to rewire my thinking habits, my brain, in order to overcome a mental condition. And I actually succeeded in rewiring my thoughts and changing what I thought. So I think that maybe have a good objective outlook on things.
Yeah, it's a cool process. I've been rewiring things for the last 13 years. It's amazing how much you can change your reality and habits, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the thinking habits you have to change. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the time I've been on YouTube, I've noticed a huge difference as well, as far as my ability to concentrate and to think and to speak.
Yeah, they know that if you don't use it, you will lose it. If you just sit in your chair and watch Netflix all day, you will have dementia by the time you're 80 for sure. So
yeah.
Anyway, okay. So the thing is, you're going around. I get a lot of these facts, these current facts from Answers in Genesis and a number of other sites that I sign up for, and they all reference some papers, and then I go and look at the papers, and the papers very often do not agree with what they say. In fact, most of the time they do not. And it concerns me that they skim across the top and they pick just skim just these little points, these little factoids, these little one-off things. And that isn't why I believe in evolution. I don't believe in evolution why do you think I believe in evolution?
Well, I think you believe that evolution is a thing, and I really don't see any evidence for evolution. But the creation science teaching ministries are looking for little facts here and there to support their position, and it might look like they're cherry picking, but they're trying to base or form a basis for what they believe, from observation.
But you understand we're not doing that. We're not doing the same thing. We're not like when you see a debate between Standing for Truth and some atheist who's talking about evolution, you'll find that Standing for Truth puts up like a list of, he'll put up a barrage of about 20 papers real fast, and the atheist just try to reason with them. Because if we were to go out like Immutable Destiny, and I recently started putting together some abiogenesis papers, and we're finding 3,000 per year from 2020 all the way back, and in some cases 8,000. If we were to put up all those papers that support abiogenesis, the debate would be pretty boring. But we don't think that way. We try to look at like reason it out, rather than look for so-and-so said about it or some. Isn't this kind of an appeal to authority?
Yeah, I agree that you would have to be able to explain what it is that you believe in your own words, and not just to say that so-and-so says this and so-and-so says that, because that's even what the rabbis would do. They said, Rabbi so-and-so said this and that other rabbi said that, and it's just not the way it works. You have to figure it out for yourself and be able to explain what it is that you believe, especially with the mechanism of evolution, which I don't see anybody doing.
Explaining it?
Yeah, explaining the mechanism of evolution.
That's what all those 3,000 papers a year, well, actually for the whole field of evolution, probably 100.
Okay, you just did the same thing as what you're talking about. You have to explain in your own words why and how you
gentlemen, let's let each other actually make a point here. Okay. Go ahead, Jungle. What were you saying? So
yeah, you have to explain in your own words, how the mechanism works, how you believe the mechanism works.
Okay, let him respond. Go ahead, Speed.
Okay, so that means that you have to understand how the mechanism works, and that means that you have to look into the not just.
Okay, notice here that I'm going to respond. He'll say things and make assertions about me. I'll respond, and it's like he didn't even hear what I said. Multiple times. I respond, and then he'll turn around and say, I don't understand what he's saying. It's really, annoying again. but follow along the conversation. It's really kind of strange.
The papers, but actually the textbooks that tell you the science behind how it works. Like, for instance, how a fish fin turns into a limb. There's a story there, and it isn't a story that's done in papers or done by any talking heads like Richard Dawkins. It's a story that exists in understanding the science behind it.
So you didn't explain the mechanism for evolution.
The mechanism for evolution? Okay, things change over time. For every generation that's born, there's a very, very slight difference to the next generation. Sometimes there is more than a slight difference between certain animals. For humans, it's hard to understand because if I had a son and he had 4 legs, I don't think he'd date too much. So for humans, it's kind of hard. But if you had like a species of beetle and they got cut off on one island, and the species of beetle started to develop different hardenings on its coat or on its wings or whatever, we know how that happens. So we have observed some of that stuff happening, and that is the basis. But now you have to zoom out and look ahead 100,000 years and see where that thing goes. How do you do that?
So you think that 100,000 years would account for vast amounts of written programming that wasn't there previously?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot of faith.
No, it's not faith. It has to do with protein folding, enzymes, enzymatic reactions, protein domains, the interchangeability of some of these parts, gene duplicate. I mean, just a whole host of things. There's
Okay.
involved.
Yeah, also keep in mind the difference between changing what's there and writing novel instruction or programming that's not there. Just keep in mind the difference between the two, because you can change what's there all day long. You're not going to have forward moving evolution.
I think what I mean is that you're describing sideways change, and I'm looking for a forward programming of instruction, vast amounts of instruction that wasn't there previously.
Yeah, and so you're wrong from the beginning. You're wrong from where you're looking. You're looking for forward change. There is no such thing in evolution. It's not forward change, and it's not. How else did you say?
Okay, that's a problem then, because if you're only going sideways and backwards, you're never going to have evolution.
But you can go forward too. There's no reason why you can't go all different ways.
First, the evolution doesn't go forward. Then when I say if you're going sideways and backwards, you're not going forwards, and you say, oh, you can go forward too. There you go. You're just making things up as you go along.
If you believe in, if you claim there's evolution, you have to show a mechanism for going forwards and getting written instruction that wasn't there previously, which to me is ludicrous.
Okay, I've got a beetle. What would you describe as forward?
Well, a change to the coat, change to the color, change to the hardness, that's all sideways variation. It's changing information and instruction that's already there. It's not writing instruction for a new organ, new mechanism or of anything, any kind.
Give me an example for the beetle that you would accept. What new mechanism?
Well, I would point to the family tree. It's like how do you get from one to another? Can I bring up my my single graph that I
Your one and only?
Yeah, my one and only graph here is, let me see if I can do this. Shit.
Smokey, I have a question.
Oops.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, sir, please. Yeah. Oh, you have something to share? I'm sorry. I was paying attention to chat. Apologies. Here we go. I got it on screen for you. Go ahead. Sorry.
What happened to your video last night?
Which one?
The one you did on Unrest.
Oh, Antifa?
Yeah.
You know, Streamlabs doesn't always let it pop right up onto YouTube. It is actually in my YouTube. I assume it's processing. Sometimes they pop up right away. Sometimes it takes them a whole day, but it will pop up.
You might want to go check that because I got a message on it. So
about what?
YouTube violation for something.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, I might go take a look at that then.
Yeah,
okay,
take a look at that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, let's see if I can see this. Gotta make it bigger. Oh, you have a phylogeny.
Yeah. So this would be the well-known Cambrian explosion, right? You know that?
Yep.
Okay, notice he's gonna divert. I'm talking about the Cambrian explosion. He wants to talk about something else. I'm talking about things are fully formed. He wants to talk about an imaginary ancestry. But just keep that in mind.
Okay. Now, what I would like to see, well, eventually would be like from a fish to a land animal to an amphibian or a lizard, and then a mammal, and then to whatever. But for each of those changes, you need changes in organs, changes in respiratories, not just changes, but a complete rewriting of the instructions to become something other than a fish.
Okay, so way on the left here at 780 million years, we have the starting point.
Notice that I say one thing and he's off on a tangent, talk about something entirely unrelated.
Right.
No. I don't want to go there yet because these things just appear out of nowhere. They have no ancestry. This is all imagined here.
I have a question. If you went over here to 780 million years ago, and then you went up here to this, through the Cambrian explosion, and we were to do a documentary, and we found out everything that happened. We had a good, we got the entire history. We had the whole story. How long do you think that documentary would be?
Okay, notice my answer. He's thinking that a documentary would last so long, and never mind. Just watch my answer.
Just take a ballpark guess how many hours or how many years.
You're talking about from here?
From 780 up to the present. How long would that documentary take to?
Not very long, because there's no information back here.
No information.
Boom. Not very long, because there's no information to make a documentary. It's so pathetic.
Information.
No, this is not fact. This is all conjecture.
Well, how do you think they came up with those branches?
It doesn't matter.
There he is. He's still trying to talk about the branches, the imaginary phylogenetic tree, when I'm talking about the Cambrian explosion, where they appear from nowhere without a previous history, and they never change to the present day.
The point is that they appear fully formed in the Cambrian right here with no, because you have to understand that the Precambrian is igneous rock, or it's pre-flood sediment layers, which doesn't have any of these large organisms in it. So, and before that, it was supposedly billions and billions of years with no sedimentation whatsoever.
Before the Cambrian.
Yeah.
And that was before we had hard shell body plans that, fossilized rather well. It was also how many million years ago? So what would you expect back here if there were no hard shells?
Well, this here is just, we don't have any information back here. But this is just what they surmise that must have happened, just because they don't want to accept that each thing was created to be what it is.
Yeah.
How do they surmise that? They just, I mean, if three biologists drew the same thing,
No, that's totally irrelevant. How do they surmise that? Who cares? Who cares how they surmised it? It's not an actual fact. It's not science. It's just conjecture, because you don't want to accept the fact that all these things appeared fully formed, and there is no other evidence for any other thing. So how they made a tree doesn't matter, because there's no information to back it up. It's like, go with the evidence, teach the evidence, and nothing more. Don't teach your belief.
saying they'd come up with completely different diagrams?
Well, you would agree that, see, this is what I'm talking about, the genome. Each of these genomes is very, very different from the other. Each one is fully formed, it's unique to what it is, and it has no predecessor or really anything after it.
So to the overview of why we believe what we believe, how do you believe they got this diagram? What do you think they did to get this diagram?
There he goes back again. He's going back to the supposed phylogenetic tree, back to the diagram, back to the millions of years that there's no evidence of.
Because many of these organisms are living today, and they haven't changed since the Cambrian. And so there's nothing before it. There's no common ancestors. You notice all the common ancestors are missing. There's no information from before, and they remain the same to this day as the organisms that they are from the given genome that they have.
I'm skeptical about that statement. I'm not a paleontologist, so I don't know what we have in Precambrian fossils, whether any of these branches are filled out. But how do you think? Why do you think they?
There is nothing in the Precambrian. The only thing in the Precambrian are microbes, which seep down inside, and even in the pre-flood sediment layers, there's no large life forms in those sediment layers because they were deposited before the creation. And so the only thing down there would be microbes. And in the deeper pre-flood sediment layers, there's nothing in them that they can find. And that's the only evidence that there is, and there's nothing there.
Have these nodes here, these points that coalesce into. I mean, where did that information come from?
From your mind, from your head.
It's not information. There is no information back here. This is all conjecture. That's all conjecture.
How did they draw it? Okay, that's what I'm asking. You believe?
How did they draw it? Still talking about what there's no evidence of. You can't talk about what there's no evidence of. You're not talking about anything. You're just inserting your conjecture, ignoring the evidence that is here, the evidence that we do have. And you're trying to make it fit, even though everything below the Cambrian is igneous rock with no history of any life.
That if three biologists that never talked to each other each drew this diagram, they would all come up with different diagrams.
It's still, there is no solid evidence of a family tree going back this far. They just suddenly appear in the Cambrian, and they haven't changed since, basically.
I'll ask the question again.
Now you believe that the fish changed into other different organisms, but you would have to get written instruction programming that's not there each and every step of the way. You see what the problem is? And when there's no mechanism of forward evolution, it's only sideways and backwards, you're not going to get written instruction that's not there for this fish to be anything other than what it's directed to be.
It still doesn't answer my question about how you think they drew the diagram.
It's irrelevant what you think, what you believe. It's totally irrelevant. You need to address what the facts are.
It's, I already said this here, there's no information, there's no evidence, there's no information, there's no facts back here. There's no facts. This is not a fact. This is what the fact is. This here, they all appear in this time suddenly with no ancestry, and they remain the same to this day. That's the fact. Now, so this back here is not a fact.
Okay, so you are saying that if three biologists were in a room, they each drew this diagram.
Still talking about the three biologists imagining a family tree, trying to connect everything up because they don't want to accept that everything was created individually with a given genome with directions to determine what the organism is going to be. You can't get programming from thin air. You can't get programming from unrelated mistakes, which are copy and errors. Just doesn't happen. And if you do, you got to show us a mechanism for that, which nobody is ever able to do.
These diagrams would be completely different. There are no facts behind it at all.
I'm saying they don't have any facts to draw the lines.
So you're agreeing with me that you believe that they would come up with three entirely different diagrams. They just pulled it out of their butts.
It doesn't matter. I'm saying they have no facts and no common ancestors to tie anything together, like the way they're tying it together.
You're claiming that there are no facts.
Yeah.
And I'm asking.
Okay. Where's the common ancestor? Where is the common ancestor? Why are all the animals missing? Why are there no animals here? Because there's no evidence of them existing. So you're talking about your own imagination and not what the facts are, not what the science is. The science is based on the evidence that you have, not what you imagine.
You to back that up.
No, it's your claim. You have to back it up, and you have no evidence.
So,
there you go. Notice what he did here.
Fact. No, this back here is not a fact.
So he's going to tell me that I have to prove his belief wrong. And notice how I respond.
Okay, so you are saying that if 3 biologists were in a room, they each drew this diagram, these diagrams would be completely different. There are no facts behind it at all.
I'm saying they don't have any facts to draw the lines.
So you're agreeing with me that you believe that they would come up with 3 entirely different diagrams. They just pulled it out of their butts.
It doesn't matter. I'm saying they have no facts and no common ancestors to tie anything together, like
Okay,
the way they're tying them together.
You're claiming that there are no facts, and I'm asking you to back that up.
No, it's your claim. You have to back it up, and you have no.
I'm claiming that there's no facts. There are no facts. He thinks there's facts. He believes there's something going on. He has to back it up. It's his belief. He's got to prove it.
No, you have no evidence to back it up.
So we would have to pause here, and I have to go spend a couple of days getting all the evidence that went into this diagram. But what do you think? I mean,
there is no evidence. FYI, there is no evidence of anything in igneous rock. It's molten rock that is formed, and there's no living organisms in it.
Do you even speculate about how they came up with this diagram? Why they coalesced?
Well, I already know there's no information back here. This is igneous rock. This is pre-flood sedimentary rock, and there's no geology basically back. It's just igneous rock, which doesn't have any life in it. And even the pre-sediment flood layers that are from the water world before the creation, they don't have any of these large organisms in them. And that's what this is. This is just a blank slate. I mean, there's no evidence, there's no information, there's nothing back here.
Okay, me trying to pry open your mind and try to figure out why you believe the stuff that you're saying.
Yeah, change this. I know you're talking about my mind because you have no evidence to back up your belief. Yeah.
Apparently not working, and I am not going to address the Cambrian explosion. It's something that I work on and think about, but I don't know a lot about the paleontology. I know about the embryology and the genetics, but we are not going to have that conversation today because it's too big a conversation.
Yeah, maybe I could propose, John, because what's happening now is we're starting to get in some really, really depth stuff, and this was supposed to be kind of kept a little bit more generalized. I feel like we've really gone a little too deep here in some of this, because now we're getting to like papers and evidence and stuff, and this was really more of a generalized interaction. So if we could we maybe pull back from this particular topic, maybe go back to something a little bit more abroad and try to take it in a different direction from there?
I can do that.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, we can stick to the facts, and these are the facts. I don't know what else we can discuss really.
Okay. Basically, what he's just demonstrated is that he has a set of facts in his mind. He has some background knowledge. He doesn't believe that there's any evidence to draw that diagram. And
do you see any living organism back here? No.
And let's not talk about this particular diagram, but let's talk about why you believe that scientists just make things up.
Well, that would be a good question, and we know they do make things up and are corrected all the time. And all of their previous claims of different, kinds of hominids and stuff have been disproved. And it's either humanoid or it's ape, and there really is no connecting the two, even as much as they try to connect them.
You believe that? You guys believe the noises that you make. Like Standing for Truth on his channel, he makes noises every day. None of them have any basis in fact. And I could say the same thing that you're saying about our little diagram here. They have no basis in fact.
Okay, this is what he's hearing. He's hearing noise. When we respond and answer to him, all he's hearing is noise. He doesn't hear what we're saying.
I have checked individual claims. But do you know why I've checked? Do you know why I listen to Standing for Truth and I listen to you and I check?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because
he listens and doesn't listen.
I'm skeptical about evolution. I'm skeptical about every piece of it.
Right.
Like I say, we're trying to piece together a history that's 4 billion years long, and it's a great mystery. And it could be like when you guys start talking, I think
it only begins right here in the Cambrian. There is no history back here other than molten rock. Okay, you can't have life in molten rock. No history whatsoever. And plus you have the sediment layers from before the creation, which also do not have large forms of life in them either.
Like, oh, so you think it's only 6,000 years long? How would that work? And then I start trying to piece out, okay, I have my kitties, I have a tiger, I have a lion, I have a hyena, I have a German Shepherd. I like to piece it back, like, okay, if you're right, then I should be able to see how the genome was modified from 6,000 years ago to produce this variation we have today. Or I can switch over to my worldview and I can look back 4 billion years and start figuring out how that works. And then I decide which one seems more likely or which one makes any sense at all. And I assure you 6,000 years makes no sense at all.
That's an assertion, but then you got to consider that everything appears suddenly in the Cambrian without any previous history and basically never changes after that. You believe that a fish turns into a gopher, but you never prove it. You can never prove it.
You realize that it's a limited number of land animals that you were naming and describing, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, let's talk about Coleoptera.
Is that a land animal?
Sort of.
What is that? Coleoptera.
Beetles.
Oh, beetles.
Like
No,
beetles.
that wasn't on the ark. That's an
We
insect.
don't know a lot about them.
That wasn't. I mean, I do.
Wait a minute,
I
they
do-
weren't on the ark.
Exactly. They weren't on
Wait a minute. You didn't know that they weren't on the ark. They don't have to be on the ark. The insects survived outside of the ark.
the ark. They're insects.
How did they live?
They survived outside the ark.
They can't.
Yes, they can.
The ocean?
Sure they
They
can.
drowned. They drowned.
They did. No, some of them survived. Obviously, lots of them drowned. Some of them survived
How do you know that? How did they survive? Little air sacs?
because you can't tell me that you can have a global flood and insects outside are not going to survive. You can't tell me that because I know that insects will survive and will reproduce. And there's a greater variety of insects in the world than there is anything else because of the fact that they did survive the global flood. And they don't breathe through the nose. They're not land animals that breathe through the nose, so they weren't on the ark. And the Bible says that all the land animals that breathe through the nose that were not on the ark died.
Died.
It doesn't say anything about the insects.
Died.
Have you ever put a bug in a glass of water?
I'm from the Amazon. I know about bugs.
Have you ever put them in a glass of water?
Yes, I'm from the Amazon. I know about bugs. I know all about bugs. I know how well they can survive in the worst of conditions.
In a glass of water.
In floods, they survive flooding. They survive heat, dry, everything. They survive everything. Yeah.
Well, remarkable.
Remarkable.
I know. I'm from the Amazon, and they come once in a while. There'll be a plague of grasshoppers, and there'll be a plague of crickets, and there'll be a plague of ground diggers. I don't know if you know what that is. There'll be and sometimes they'll all come at the same, and frogs, and a whole bunch of different things. Sometimes they'll all come at the same time.
And there was a global flood recently that you know about, that you have evidence of, where all these insects survived for a year underwater or with water.
With water on floating debris and all kinds of ways that they survive. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a wonderful glimpse into the mind of the creationist, I guess.
Well, that was a correction.
There you go. There's a slam without even presenting any evidence whatsoever.
On your part, that you didn't realize that the insects were not on the ark or didn't have to be on the ark.
I don't know how you would have kept them on.
I don't know how evolutionists don't know already that the insects were not on the ark. Didn't have to be. The sea life didn't have to be on the ark.
It's not in any of my textbooks. There's nothing.
Marine life didn't. Yeah, well,
It's not in your textbook, so it's sad. It's real sad. We know it.
yeah, but you should know that the insects weren't on the ark.
I've never read the Bible, I'm sorry. So I don't know the biblical myths.
Gentlemen, may I interject with a question from the audience?
The Bible is not a myth, okay? That's one thing. One of the problems that you have thinking that the Bible is a myth.
We have something from Mitchell here, and this is for Speed. He says, is it plausible to believe that the bacteria today will evolve into a biologist a billion years from now?
No.
Okay. No, very good.
Okay.
Please proceed, gentlemen.
Yeah, the timeline is in the billions of years, and it still wouldn't happen, in my opinion. Because
No, it wouldn't evolve.
there's no forward evolution. There's only sideways and backwards evolution.
No, but some of them would evolve into things that we could never imagine, and they wouldn't be. They wouldn't be.
Check that out. There's no forward evolution. There's only sideways and backwards variation and deletions, and amazing things can magically happen. You know, that's not science.
Biologists would be something else.
But in your imagination, not based on any evidence.
No, based on science. If you know the science, you know how it happens.
You didn't. You weren't able to.
No, not science. You don't have science. You don't have a mechanism. Don't talk to me about science. We have the science. This is the science. The science is the facts that we can verify. This we can verify. This we can verify. This is not verified. It's not science. You cannot verify this in any way, shape, or form. You can only imagine it. It's not science. Get that into your head, not just be the sound of gravity, but every evolutionist on the face of the earth, get that into your head. It's not science. Evolution is not science. It's imagination.
Explain the mechanism, how you get programming that's not there.
Okay. Explain the mechanism. Now, do you know what that means? Do you know how you do that? How do you explain the mechanism?
Okay, this is what I was referring to earlier, where he's gonna make an assertion about me. I'm gonna respond, and he's gonna go as if I didn't say anything at all, and then he's gonna say I don't understand, when he didn't even hear what I said.
Yeah, there would be a mechanism, and the mechanism would have to be copying mistakes. So you would have to explain how copying mistakes are going to write vast amounts of written programming, viable programming of the many directed working functions that aren't even there.
Okay, if I change a arginine to a cysteine amino acid, I have a copy mistake. Okay.
And that would have to combine with other mistakes and the existing genome. It'd have to be compatible with the immune system, the other mistakes, and the genome to then write the novel of Shakespeare. Or
Okay, that's one time.
better than the novel of Shakespeare.
Okay. But what
Which is total absurd nonsense. This is why I'm totally against any kind of evolution whatsoever. Variation of species, sideways evolution is not going to equate.
So what
to
would the
evolution.
Okay, I'm sorry, I talked over you.
Doesn't equate. Okay, what would be what?
What would the arginine to cysteine do? What is the mechanism there?
That is a copying error. It would change. It would alter either a protein or an existing set of information instruction that would
Okay, that's two. Two times I responded.
probably be either sideways or backwards in the information structure.
Okay, but don't you think I'm being a little unfair here asking you that question
And then he says I didn't understand what he was saying.
when you don't have any idea what those two things mean?
I just responded to you twice to your questions, and now you're saying I don't understand. I don't have no idea what it means.
No, don't say that.
Do you know what they mean? Arginine and cysteine? Arginine and cysteine, do you know what it means?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're parts. They're rungs on the DNA. And besides, you're still. Even if I didn't know what you
So that's three times I said responded.
were talking about, it's still irrelevant because you're not going to get mistakes that are going to combine with other mistakes and the existing genome to write vast amounts of written instruction programming of all kinds of mechanisms, including nanotechnology and quantum physics, to accomplish the processes, and from random mistakes that are selected for.
Okay, I was being unfair to make a point. And the point was that you don't know the mechanisms.
You don't listen, apparently.
And if I were to start telling you about the mechanisms, you wouldn't understand what I was talking about.
I wouldn't understand. I just responded three times. How can I not understand?
And that's,
Even if I didn't understand.
Let me apologize. Okay.
No,
I mean,
even if I didn't understand.
Look, he's responding to his own echoes in his own mind.
Go,
You're
Jargon,
not-
let him
You're
finish.
not explaining the mechanism of how you
Jargon.
get vast amounts of programming that's not there.
I'm explaining.
Let him explain. Let him finish his point.
Okay. I'm not trying to say that you're that you're ignorant or anything like that, or that I know more than you and all that stuff. But in this case, I do. Like, you may know how to overhaul a 4-barrel carb on a
In this case, you're not even listening to what I even said to know whether or not I understood what you said.
Chevy 327. Well, actually, I do too. But you may know something that I don't know, and I may know something that you don't know. But you're asking me to explain mechanisms, and you don't even know what I just said about arginine and cysteine. So I would have to explain that to you, and then I would have to explain why that's important. I'd have to tell you that, you know, cysteine is a sticky kind of molecule, and it's not a nucleotide, and it's not just a copy mistake. That there is one mutation that we know about where it's highly advantageous, where it creates new information that works out very well. That is the ApoA.
It changes written instruction that's already there. It doesn't write programming, vast amounts of it that's not there.
One Milano, and I believe it's arginine and cysteine. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, the point is that you're asking me to explain mechanisms, and you're never going to sit still long enough for me to explain it. And you guys keep,
You know, this is really pathetic that you don't even understand what I'm saying, because you have to have those mistakes, those copying errors, write vast amounts of programming greater than the novel Shakespeare that's not there. And you don't understand that, apparently.
keep putting up this diagram over and over again, and asking us, demanding that we explain how a fin turned into a limb. But you won't even listen to us for more than 30 seconds before you interject something. And you don't have the information that other people do.
We have the same information that everybody else has. Don't be thinking that you know more than what we know.
How do you?
You're not even making any sense, because you're just trying. You're making the claim that I don't understand what DNA is, and that I don't understand what a mistake is, and that therefore I can't possibly understand how you can write vast amounts of written billions of bits of programming that's not there in the DNA genome, the information, the linear instruction of DNA. You have to get vast amounts of linear instruction, viable instruction, to make directed working mechanisms that are not there in the genome, and if you want to have evolution.
How do you know this?
Because that's what's required to get from one thing to another, is you need the
It's kind of obvious, right? It's kind of obvious. Just look at the evidence and you'll know it.
information that is in a gopher that's not in the fish. It's not complicated.
So
the instruction is not the same.
That's why I'm trying to get you to lift up to the top of the conversation and start thinking about, how do I know this, and what do I know, and why do I think this, right?
Okay, listen to the response. Listen for a change. Maybe you will know how we know.
Like, why do you believe that you should know with what you just told me? Like, for one thing, you called mutations a mistake.
And it is a mistake.
Right
It
away,
is a mistake.
it's out of the ballpark.
It is a mistake. It's a copying error. And you need, from copying errors, you need to get from a fish to gopher, and you have no way of getting all the programming required to make a gopher.
And I'm telling you that there's a body of knowledge that says what you just said is not.
Wrong. There is no paper showing how you can get from a fish to a gopher.
Nonsense.
No, that's your claim, and it's nonsense. For you to get to a fish from a gopher is nonsense, because you have no mechanism to write the instruction that's not there required to make a gopher.
And okay,
It's not, I don't have to be intelligent. All I have to do is look at the gopher, and it is made to be a gopher. It has instructions that make it a gopher, and the fish have instructions to make it a fish. They are not the same instructions. And you can only show me sideways and backwards evolution, but you need to show me how you can get viable programming to make all the vast amounts of written instruction that is required to make a gopher. And you can't do that, and no biologist can do it. And so it needs to be removed from the textbook yesterday.
so you think the DNA is a blueprint for a gopher?
That's part of it. It's not the whole thing.
Look at all these unrelated, nonsensical questions that have nothing to do with what I'm saying. and it's just trying to do, red herring here, rabbit hole there, you know, kind of operation. It's all smokescreen. They don't have any evidence.
But expound on that. Tell me how gophers are
You're
created.
changing the subject, though. You're changing the subject.
Okay,
And it doesn't matter because there's more information than just the genome. The zygote has information. There's an inherent instruction, and they don't even know where it's coming from, anyways, to begin with. So how can I tell you if they don't know where it's coming from? You're asking silly questions that are not even. You're evading the problem. You're evading the problem of the required instruction getting to make the gopher. That there's programming that's not there. I'm not the brightest person in the world, but I can see a gopher has written instruction to make it a gopher, and a fish has written instruction to make it a fish.
Okay, but I'm asking how you think that instruction works. What do you know?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The fact is that it has instruction to make it a gopher, and the fish has instruction to make it a fish, and it's never going to be other than what it is directed to be.
Okay. Smokey, help us out here.
Sure.
Am I still sharing?
I'm
not. I don't.
No, yeah, that we took the. No, you were sharing, but now we're back to regular. Sure, Speed. Go ahead, sir.
What am I getting wrong here?
Well, I mean, I don't think either of you are really. I think what's happening is we're having some presuppositional differences. What I think is there's a. Again, don't allow me to get interjected with too much psychology in the situation at all. But I am trying to be fair and balanced. There is always a desire to kind of keep track of the presuppositional worldview, and I don't know if we're quite addressing. Here's the thing: I believe that what both of you gentlemen are doing a very good job of it. Is presenting exactly how you see the entire paradigm. And maybe it helps for us to, because we did keep this very broad and very general to kind of let it lead where it would go. And I knew it was going to lead to some realms of specificity. I didn't quite know it was going to go this direction. But what I would like to do is, if we could, let's maybe just pull back completely. Okay, we've been at this probably on the real science front for kind of about an hour. What do you guys say about kind of taking this more to the belief realm? About substance of beliefs, why you believe what you do, justifications for those beliefs. Is that maybe fair to kind of leave where we've gone with the science part and backtrack?
Sure.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, you could.
I mean, unless you guys want to have closing statements, that's fine.
I just want to ask if either of you can see why I would be so annoyed as a child growing up in the Amazon, and this stuff being pushed on people. And watching it my entire life, and not being able to say anything, which
Absolutely.
Of the obvious, and how annoyed I can be because of the lack of.
Oh no, we
evolution.
appreciate that. Yeah, no, we appreciate that, Jungle, and we certainly appreciate an emotional angst to it. And you know that I have it myself. Absolutely, and so it's perfectly appropriate too. And I think I even let you both get away with a fair level of it through the debate. So, and I'm perfectly fine with it because I know that this is something both of you take very seriously and you believe does have social and personal ramifications. So certainly I've allowed this and wanted this to be a lively exchange and discussion. But again, the intention is for it always to be profitable. And I think once we start getting into really, really diehard specifics, not only is the audience going to stop probably being able to grab onto exactly what you guys are talking about, but then we're kind of just really, really pounding the same points over and over. So since Speed, you kind of opened with the scientific part. Jungle, why don't you kind of try to take, since you're kind of, from the religious background, Christianity background, why don't you take us into a new phase of the conversation and kind of open us up with how you see beliefs and faith and why you believe what you believe?
Yeah, the issue of creation, of course, is important because I believe that, if we're going to have a solution to anything, we would have to, or we should be going to the Creator, looking for answers. And if there's any solution to the human condition, which is sin and death, that the answer would be found in the Creator, so that only our Creator can be our Savior, solution to our problem.
Okay. Speed, would you like to have a response or just kind of go into an inquiry type session?
Okay. Not sure. It's interesting that you're irritated, and that you feel that you've got this common sense grasp of what's going on, and you're irritated, and I'm irritated because I'm kind of like I used to take things apart and not be able to put them back together when I was a.
Yeah, no. Is my IQ way up there, up in the clouds, where I'm easily able to understand what I'm talking about and nobody else can? I don't think so, but sometimes I wonder.
Kid, one of those. I mean, a lot of us were, but I like to know how things work in like utter detail.
Yeah.
Like I see a beetle, I want to know how that thing works. I want to know how it breathes. I want to know how it grows and all that stuff. So I get down into, this whole sciencey thing where I study, and I still don't know. I mean, I'm just scratching the surface. And then I listen to you, and you got kind of this nuts and bolts attitude about, you know how it works. And I'm telling you that I don't know how it works. And I don't know how abiogenesis or evolution happened. And that's why I work on it every day. So it's almost like we're different kinds of people. We're coming at it from two different ends. And I don't have the benefit of this religious belief that you have. I have none of it, have never had it, cannot rely on it. Do I believe in deep time? Yep.
By the way, if you don't know what the issue really is that I don't even have a religion. I just have a belief in what is true. That is my religion, a belief in what is true. So it's not about religion, it's about what is true. And I know what is true from what I observe. That's what it has to be. That's science. And that's theology, the highest level of science.
Plenty of science behind that. So, I mean, I don't have a
You said millions of years, there's plenty of science behind that. No, I don't think so.
supernatural go-to that I can rely on to say this is how it happened. So I have to say, okay, so how did it happen? And I have to look into it. And I don't know how every bit of it happened, of course. Nobody does.
Would you like to go into the science and the physics of time and distance?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, no, let's try to pull out of kind of the science realm. I'd like us to explore a little bit more personally, because again, guys, what I noticed during this, and it's wonderful, it's a good exposition, but you guys have emotional reasons for why you cling to this too.
Yeah, you said I'm irritated. I'm more than irritated. I'm very annoyed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to explore that a little bit as to because here's the thing, guys. Everything that we believe is not just based upon reasons and facts. It's just not how the human mind works. Okay, we have attachments to our beliefs. Sometimes it's ego, sometimes it's pride, sometimes it's even just a fear of personal pain or embarrassment or humiliation. There's lots of different reasons people come to the desire to have the beliefs they have, and that's what I would like to try to have us explore a little bit here. So this is I want you guys to feel open to share a little bit about yourselves, your personal path to the belief that you held in, and why you kind of came to that realization, because I think that really helps clear the air between two people trying to communicate their worldviews. So that's what I'm trying to draw out here. Okay.
Well, I can say that I believed at a very young age in God. I always believed, and they sat us up when I was a small child. They would put us not in the front row. They put us almost right beside the preacher, in front of everybody, as if we were on stage as well. So that, and we were, kids, like very young kids, like in first grade, and they put us right up next to the preacher as he was preaching. So I paid attention, and I didn't mind it anyways. And I am very much able to conform to the requirements of what people say that I have to do. And I lived almost my entire life that way, including in the military. So I'm very much able to do what other people want me to do, and to listen and to pay attention. And everything that I believe has to be based on fact. It can't be a belief. It has to be grounded in reality. And that's what I believe. Well, yeah. So then I believed at a young age, when I was like 17 and 18, I wanted to see what was out in the world. And I was there in the world, away from the church, for about 3 years. And then I came back and I went to Bible school. And then I went into the Army. And then I got out of the Army and I got a job as a mechanic. Went from one job to another job to another job, finally until I landed at the job that I retired from after 30 years, which is a mechanic at an airline in Newark, where I am now.
In Newark.
And now, Jungle, is there kind of like you were kind of touching on it a little bit earlier, that you seem to have a very driven dynamic to want to convince people, and of course all of us as Christians have a driven dynamic to bring people to knowledge of Christ naturally, but I'm talking more about your personal dynamic with how you perceive your belief as maybe being positive. I mean, because it seemed like you were touching on, well, I saw what this is doing, and this belief was being forced on people. I just, maybe if you could just explore that a little bit, and then we'll let Speed respond.
Yeah, of course I was indoctrinated, not only in South America, but in the Midwest and in Bible churches, fundamental Bible churches. And then, like I said, I went into the world to figure out the world for myself, and I came back to God, but not necessarily with all the same teachings that I was indoctrinated with. And then I had the mental breakdown, and then I had to rewire my brain, and
Gotcha.
and then but yeah, we do have a huge weight of responsibility, and I consider myself as someone with a huge amount of responsibility, considering that I know, all of what the teaching of the Bible is, and I've been able to, sort of condense it into a version that's understandable. But yeah, we do have a responsibility that if we see someone dying and being taken away to slaughter or death, and we don't lift a finger to help, we are responsible. When we could have prevented it if we had warned people, if we'd sounded the warning, like the person on the watchtower. So.
Okay, beautiful. Speed, go ahead, sir. Take as long as you like.
Well, let's see. I can tell you my story. I grew up in a home where my mom went to, brought us to church on Easter. And then when I was around 6, she decided to bring me to church every Sunday. And around 7 or 8, I told her that I wasn't going to do it anymore because it wasn't making sense to me. So I've never had religion in my life at all. And between my mom and I, this lasted until she died here about 12 years ago. She'd be like, Mikey, do you believe in God yet? It was kind of funny. But and as she lay dying, I told her that I did. On her last day on this earth, so because I thought it would do no harm, I wanted to set her mind at ease. But anyway, so at 15, I got into this whole Buddhist worldview. But in the meantime, I had been studying science from as long as I can remember. When I was going to church, I was reading these all about dinosaur books and things like that. So I've had this whole science thing going on all my life. But the thing about belief is.
Yeah, not to interrupt, but as if I didn't have science when I was growing up. I mean, yeah, science was my favorite subject growing up.
The human mind requires belief in order to operate. I mean, I would go crazy if I didn't have beliefs. Like right now, I have a belief that my son is coming down the stairs behind me to get coffee, and I believe it's him, and so I'm not going to grab my gun. I mean, we all have beliefs, and I'm not going to turn around and check it out because I know it's him, right? So I mean, somewhere we have these old current beliefs. So any atheist that tells you that he has no beliefs, kind of full of shit. He hasn't studied neuroscience. Belief, and then
well, I agree with you there, and I almost think he's probably philosophically inept. But please continue.
Yeah, we run on belief all the time, but this belief is sort of based on this historic thing that we've done all our lives, where we accumulate this network of knowledge, and this network of knowledge will have us firing off and voting for this candidate or that candidate based on a network of beliefs. And of course, in the United States right now, we are 50-50 down the middle, and we are pulling far apart. There's a part as different as you and I are, Jungle, and it's kind of scary that we have just based on this net of knowledge, we have such vastly different beliefs. But anyway, I think it is my responsibility to just clobber you young Earth creationists, because you are denying 99% of what we know in science right now, and I feel a moral obligation to push back on this. So we're definitely right there, fist to fist, opposed. And it's kind of sad, isn't it?
Yeah, and I believe that the conversation between us will do a lot of good, if not for us individually, maybe for somebody else.
Yeah.
But yes, and you say that you have science as your basis, but I didn't see you present any science. That's the problem that I have.
But I did, arginine to cysteine. I started talking about it, but you didn't want to pursue it.
That does not equate to vast amounts of written programming.
Okay, so that's why I asked you how long that documentary would take. That documentary would take about 1 billion years for PBS to tell you how we got from 780 million years ago to now. So I mean, what are you asking me for? You want me to give you some one evidence, knockout thing?
Just the facts.
Hold on. Still,
Let him finish.
Leaving my thought. You want me to give you this one knockout 3 sentences that convince you how evolution worked? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, because if there's no mechanism, then there's no evolution. And if you can't describe a mechanism for me, then your belief is only a belief without a basis.
Okay, if you can't describe the mechanism in your iPhone, the entire mechanism to me right now, tell me right now how my voice gets into the iPhone and comes out the other end in the Amazon. Tell me the mechanism for that.
But I'm not saying that doesn't happen.
How would you tell me the mechanism for everything inside the iPhone? What I'm trying to tell you is that to tell you about evolution is a long, long, long discussion. Okay, and we don't want to get into that because we're trying to stay up. We're trying to stay up.
So you don't think that it requires a lot of faith for things that you haven't seen for billions of years?
I belief, but faith. No, faith is a different kind of animal than that. Basically, I don't apply faith to evolution.
Same thing.
Belief
Same
to
thing.
it.
Same thing.
No.
Faith is what you believe. Yeah. Same thing.
Okay. For me, faith is the polar opposite of belief.
Well, then use belief. Use belief.
I have a belief in evolution, and it's based on a lot of knowledge.
Confusing himself with his own words.
I don't want to say faith again, but the belief is without seeing. You believe things, billions of occurrences happened without you seeing it.
Well, yeah, we do that all the time. I believe my car's out in the garage right now, and I haven't seen it for 3 months.
Yeah, but if there was a reason to believe it, that would be one thing. If you could see a mechanism of writing instruction that's not there, that would be one thing. But we don't observe that.
Don't observe.
We don't observe any instruction being written to make any directed working mechanism that's not there.
That is just so completely wrong. I'm reading. I've got 2,500 books in this room that tell me about that mechanism, and you're telling me it doesn't exist. These books don't exist.
I'm telling you, the mechanism doesn't exist, and your belief is without a basis, and all those books are rubbish.
Your books are rubbish.
Okay, I'll go burn them. I better get on that.
That's my objective, is to destroy evolution. Because if you only got sideways and backwards evolution, you don't have evolution.
Would you advocate burning these books?
I think maybe we stepped into a possible dangerous path of generalities here.
Really?
Let's take this whole thing of mechanisms down to a little bit of a more specified level. Are we talking about abiogenesis? Are we talking about evolution? Are we talking about natural selection? What are we really saying here for a mechanism?
Yeah, when you talk about a mechanism, like, okay, when you're talking about going from fin to limb, that would be one pretty narrowly focused mechanism, but it's way not narrow enough. Because then we'd have to start talking about ancient fish anatomy, and then we would have to get the diagrams up, and then we'd have to start talking about embryogenesis.
Well, I'll tell you what. How about this, Speed? Do you have something that you kind of think is a strong evidence for the mechanism of your naturalistic paradigm? Like, because again, not something just that evolution is true or that species could evolve, but a little bit more directed towards a support of a naturalistic worldview of the evidence. Maybe we can shortcut this a little bit, kind of drag it to something a little more specific.
I don't think it's possible to.
But that's fine. I mean, if it's not, if I'm asking you for something unrealistic, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. Like, okay, I mean, there are little tiny pieces, that I could tell you about that are persuasive, but that's about it. But I mean, there's no one single evidence. It's a big mess.
Right. No, I understand. I was just kind of looking for maybe some sort of stopgap specificity of like a mechanism we could maybe delve into a little bit. But I mean, I can appreciate where you're coming from a philosophical point, because, and me too, from my belief set, I couldn't point to you one thing that supports my belief. I'd have to take you on a journey. Right. So I can appreciate where you're coming from. I was just trying to draw out a little bit of extra specificity. So did you guys want to continue, or do you want me to try to redirect?
We can redirect in a minute, but I have one little thing, okay? When you study embryogenesis, you have a single cell, and it kind of differentiates. And when it comes from the mama, like it comes from, say, a chicken, okay, there's a really thick gel. The inside of an egg is kind of a thick gel, or the inside of an egg gel. And inside of that, there is a gradient, okay? There are some cells at the top that are sending out chemicals on one side, and then there are cells at the bottom that are sending out different chemicals. You could imagine on top they're sending out red dye, and on the bottom they're sending out blue dye, okay? And then they meet in the middle, and we have purple dye. But then all along we have like this different, levels of dye. Well, the genome is not a blueprint for producing an organism. The genome is more generative. It's kind of like, so what'll happen is we have this gradient. So now in the middle where it's purple, we might pop out something. We'll have the tissue will start to accumulate. So I mean, and very, very tiny differences in those nucleotides in DNA can drastically change the shape of what pops out of those. So that is the one thing that, when I always feel bad when I'm asked how do you explain the mechanism, that I never offer anything. But that is like one little diagram that I could do a 1-hour lecture on and show you how some of these little things form and how little you have to change the DNA in order to get, 3 legs instead of 1. So anyway, that would be it. But I think you should redirect to a higher level.
Okay, well, let's pull back then again, and I would like to explore a little bit more about these belief sets, because Speed, you had said something that really I thought was kind of interesting.
Do I feel like I'm out of the conversation or what? I didn't get a chance to respond. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Interesting. And you had kind of almost alluded to, and you did kind of, single them out, and I do appreciate that, because it seems like you have actually put some thought into this. But the young Earth creationists you see as kind of a threat. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that for us? Maybe Jungle has something to respond to on that.
Oh God. Okay, I'm gonna get into trouble.
Well, no, I probably worded that too strongly, but I was just trying to shortchange it. There are some potentially unsavory influences that you are afraid of kind of interjecting their way into the world of science. Is that a better way to put it?
Into the world of children.
Okay. Well, why don't you maybe elaborate? Because I think Jungle probably would have a very nice opinion to share on that as well. So
Yeah, and I would definitely object to teaching nonsense to children, especially when there's no evidence for it.
why don't you go ahead and take us into that a little bit?
So the way I got into all this is back about 20 years ago, I started studying something called evolutionary psychology, and I became interested in why males are such. I can't swear.
No, it's my channel. I allow vulgarity, blasphemy, heresy. This is a battlefield, so you can say.
Why are males such assholes? Why do they hit each other? Why do they hit women? Why do they rape? Why are they so aggressive? And I started looking into all of that. And I was raising teenagers at the time, and I didn't want my children to end up like that. And they turned out to be very, very good young men. I mean, when one of them was faced with a real crisis, he handled his mate so gently and so well, where most men would have raged and hurt and anyway, so there's all that, and I was trying to understand that, and I came, and I'm making a point here. I'm going to get to the point. I started studying neuroscience, and I started studying how minds wire together and how emotions work, and I found out a little bit about why males are such assholes. And one of the solutions to that is through education, but we have to first understand that our mind is a organ, that there are things that we can learn about it, and we can learn how to learn. We can learn how to, like you said, Jungle, you change the way your brain works. I know how that happens. And I think we ought to start teaching that. And if we're pushing back and we're completely denying science and to be a young Earth creationist, you have to deny 99% of science. And you have to be
Evolution is denying science, and that's 100% wrong.
Suspicious of it. We're never going to get to the point where we start teaching our children according to what we have learned in science and make them better men and women. And so that becomes sort of a mission for me. And that I think young Earth creationism is evil.
Yeah. Well,
let's let Jungle please, sir, take as long as you like.
Yeah, I respect you a little bit more for, raising your children to be responsible people. And
thank you.
I appreciate that. It's because, well, a lot of it's, people, have situations and circumstances where it gets out of control and there's not too much they can do as far as, raising their kids, because they get into a school system that has a totally different teaching and philosophy, and it could just ruin them. But in spite of that, I respect you a little bit more for that. But Smokey had mentioned the difference between abiogenesis and evolution, and I would say that evolution would be a biogenesis of vast amounts of programming that's not there every step of the way. But yet, I really believe that it's important to teach facts, and I don't believe that evolution is a fact. And if there's no, they've been claiming that they're going to back it up for decades, ever since I remember. They say they're coming up with evidence. They present some evidence, it's disproved, it's discounted. Embryos looking alike, pig's teeth, and a whole bunch of claims all throughout my life that have been disproved. Lucy, another one, that has all kinds of problems with it, just because they found human footprints in a layer that they couldn't explain. And so they had to come up with Lucy to try to explain why the Laetoli footprints were there. So I'm seeing this my entire life, and it's really annoying when there's no actual evidence. And we have a known human history going back to the time of the flood. Every calendar goes back to the time of the flood. Every genealogy goes back to people who stepped off the ark. Every Y chromosome goes to one of the three sons of Noah. Every mtDNA goes to one of the three wives of the three sons of Noah. And we can follow their migration throughout the world and know that they spread out from Mesopotamia. We can know that the CY chromosome, which was probably Nimrod, never even went to Africa, but his father Cush did go to Africa with all his descendants, with the Cushites, which are the dark-skinned people. And there's also the DY chromosome that also never went to Africa, went east the same way as the CY chromosome did. It went the opposite direction. So it's all in line with the known historical facts that we know of a history going back no more than 5,000 years or 6,000 years if you want to include the genealogies from before the global flood.
Where did you get those facts?
It's widely available. There's charts that show the migration of the Y chromosome and the mtDNA chromosome, where they came from, where they went and stuff.
I know where. There are basically there's a group of.
No, he doesn't know where, because what I got wasn't creationist research, studies. It was from secular research, not from any creationist research.
So-called professionals that work for various agencies. They're getting paid $100,000 to $150,000 a year to come up with this garbage.
Yeah, and I didn't get it from them anyway. And studying the Y chromosome isn't garbage. If you can, have some input, that's another thing. But otherwise, don't be saying it's garbage.
Science, and you guys rely on that completely. And
Again, you're wrong, because I wasn't even using those studies.
they have been shot down at every step of the way. They are amateurs.
You think they've been shot down? Okay.
And I am sad to see what they're doing. They are the real evil here.
Okay.
The evil is the lies, and we're looking for what the facts are. And evolution is not a fact; it is a lie.
You're kind of avoiding the point that we have no other human history.
No other human history.
There is no other human history. There's only one human history, and it all goes back to the focal point of Mesopotamia, where they stepped off the ark.
Yeah, because you believe what you've been fed,
No.
what you've been spoon fed by these people.
No, it's the only history we have. I'm just saying you don't have any other history or calendar or genealogy.
I don't know what you mean by that. I don't understand.
I'm just saying that all of known history, including all the information of calendars, genealogies, and historical records, all goes back to the same time, to the Sumerians. Abraham was a Sumerian, and the Sumerians were Semitic descendants of Shem, who was one of the sons of Noah. And the Hamites, which were Mitzrayim, Cush, and Put, they went to Africa. And they're still there in Africa, and their Y chromosome can be traced. But they're the only ones that did go to Africa. Everybody else went the other way, including two of the sons of Cush, which is the CY chromosome and the DY chromosome, never even went to Africa. They went east instead of west. And you can follow the migrations. You can follow the...
Okay, that disproves the out of Africa belief based on lies.
The IY chromosome, which branches off from the JY chromosome and goes out through Europe, which is the Vikings and the Scandinavians and the Anglo-Saxons that have the IY chromosome. And the rest have the shape of the RY chromosome, which is closely associated with the QY chromosome, which went through all the way through the Americas. I mean, you can follow where everyone went. Everybody is present and accounted for of the known history that we have.
Yeah, and that sounds somewhat like another history that you said there's only one. I've looked at another one that comes out of Africa, and it's almost exactly like the one you're talking about.
In Africa, there's the A, B, and the E. That's the only ones in the Africa that are in Africa, except for an R that went to Africa as well. But the A, B, and the E are Y chromosomes that went to Africa. Everybody else went other ways from Mesopotamia. And if you go to the pie charts of the Y chromosome and the mtDNA chromosome, you'll see that the pie charts are loaded of all the people represented in the Turkmenistan area of the Middle East, which is near the Mesopotamian area. And then everybody branches out from there like spokes of a wheel. They go to Europe, they go to Asia, they go to South America, they go to Australia, Asia, but they're all represented right there in the middle, and they all spread out from there in different families, go different directions all over, including the Cushite family, that went to Kush, which is the dark-skinned Africans, and then there's the Mitzrayim family, which is the Egyptian family, and then there's the Put family, which is the Phoenicians, which are the Berbers today, and everybody's present and accounted for.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff you know there that I don't know, but would you mind sharing some of the documents where you got this information about what happened about Y chromosomes going to Africa?
It's all widely available on the internet. There's charts.
No, I don't know.
There's charts and migration routes. They're trying to say that people started out with A.
I'd like to see the ones that you're looking at.
Well, you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, the ones that I was looking at are secular information that's available to everyone. I'm not looking at creationist research. I'm looking at secular stuff that even claims that Adam started out with A, and nobody is descended from anybody that's an A, because that's an entirely different tree from the rest of the world.
I would like you to send me links. Rather, we don't have much more time here today to get, and we don't want to get into the weeds.
Yeah, I could send some of the charts to you. Showing.
But you guys got each other's emails.
Yeah, you have my email. Go ahead, please. Send the stuff to back that up. And
it's not creationist work. They think that everybody started with A in Africa.
Okay,
but there's still the problem of that the only people in Africa are A, B, and E. The C and the D went the other way. Never went to Africa, and everybody else went other directions from Mesopotamia, where they're all mostly concentrated.
Okay. Well, yeah, shoot that over to Speed, and he'll look at that. But let's not try to go real super depth into something that he wants to prepare a little more. And if you guys want to do another discussion, particularly on that, we can do that. But let's pull back again. Speed, I think you were going to bring something up.
Was I?
Oh, were you? I'm sorry. I had worried I interrupted you. Did I not?
I probably forgot it.
Okay, it's okay. It's fine. Gentlemen, I mean, we can stop now, or we can proceed and go on more with the beliefs thing, or we can table this, and you guys gave each other a lot to think about. Maybe you can share some resources, and we could come back again. What do you think?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, it's okay. We don't have to drag it on forever. I mean, I could talk more, maybe, but...
Well, no, yeah, and certainly that's fine, but I think we got to a couple stop gaps on a couple of the conversations in terms of really nailing down specifics. So what I think would be a good idea is when we got to the 1 hour mark, we had kind of reached this stopgap point of references, papers, things about phylogeny. That would be a good area to explore if you guys really want to go. Here's the thing. We're not going to avoid ever getting into specificity on some of this stuff, because once we start going down the rabbit hole, we're going to fall. So what I would like to do moving forward and doing another conversation is you guys choose the specifics. Now, this stream, you guys got the chance to feel each other out, see where your worldviews really are. You have two different areas, both at the 1 hour mark and both at the 1 hour 30 mark, that are stopgaps of specificity of conversation, where you guys can share references from each other's worldviews, and then you guys can pick either one of these, the 1 hour mark or the 1 hour 30 mark, that you want to come back and discuss, and we'll have another structured conversation. Is that fair?
Sounds good.
I have one small question though of Speed of Sound.
Sure.
I would just like to ask him, how does his belief in Buddhism affect everything else he believes?
I think it's probably, it has defined me pretty much. The experience I had when I was 15 years old has defined the entire rest of my life. And Buddhism is very, very, I think it's changed the course of my entire life, my understanding of Buddhism.
Would that be like middle road? Is that part of the teaching?
I think it was like Mahayana. I do not read the text. I do not care about the text. I took away something when I was young, and it made tremendous sense to me for all of my life, and it has pretty much shaped everything. You know, the thing about good and evil being a part of each other, being integrated with the world, not really existing, getting rid of ego, all of that is probably all big.
Yeah, we need to investigate not really existing. That's a little bit off, at least the way I understand it to be, not really existing. If you don't exist, there's nothing you can tell me, basically.
Basic too, but I don't think, let's see, has it entered into my science? Yes, I think so. I fell in love with the world, with the universe, with nature, and my part in it. And so I think it has affected me, yeah.
Yeah, I would have some similarities with that, considering I was raised in the Amazon, and so I do like nature and appreciate it, and I do try to, take a middle of the road attitude. It's just that I also believe in that Jesus is the only answer to everything.
There we differ.
Yeah.
That's all right. And you know, this big fight against creationism and all the stuff that I'm going to end up doing online, where I call you guys names and whatever, and get a little hard on you once in a while. You got to know that it's not personal. I would stop a bullet for you. I would, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I respect that, and I respect you a lot more than I did before this discussion.
Okay, well, thank you. And then the same for you. I thought this was going to be a lot harder than it was, because I watched some of your other videos, and I was like, oh my god.
Well, you guys did know you were coming into Smokey's house, and both of you respect me, and I think that allowed us to maintain a certain atmosphere and environment. And I did want to direct you two gentlemen to get to know each other a little bit more, because again, this is not just about a series of facts. This is about a whole complex cacophony of life experiences that have all facilitated in your own personal belief systems. Now, if you're not willing to take a little bit of time and figure out at least why the other person believes what they do, then you're just talking over each other.
Yeah.
So I am very pleased. I'm very happy. I'm overjoyed. Thank you, gentlemen, both, for joining me here today, having this wonderful dialogue, this exploration. And please, if you want to take one of those other details into a little bit more depth in another conversation, I hope you'll consider me. It would be my pleasure to host you both again.
Okay, good enough.
Okay.
Very good. All right, gentlemen. Well, then I will bid you adieu and leave with my closing then.
Okay.
Wonderful. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I thought that was wonderful, an excellent exchange. And I hope for all the people that saw this video and got the chance to see it and are familiar with the interactions that Jungle Jargon and Speed have had in the past, that it is my intrinsic necessity to make this channel an environment of the open exchange of ideas. And you might say, but Smokey, you're so harsh and direct and expositional and embarrassing to some of these atheists. Yeah, the ones that attack, the ones that just have an axe to grind, the ones that think that they have to make a point against us as if they have any solid footing at all. Yeah, no, they get a special treatment. That's not what this channel is about. This channel is about keeping the lines of communication open on both sides and maintaining respect and dialogue. When you give respect, you get respect. The cultural expectation that everyone is simply born with a level of respect, that's societal cancer. That's poison. It's a poisonous ideology. We have to earn respect. We have to show ourselves worthy of being respected. We have to present ourselves as respectable. It's essential. And what happened today, ladies and gentlemen, was not just an exposition of two people's facts just exploding all over each other, but it was an exposition of attempting to explore the reason and rationality for the beliefs that we come to. I hope you all enjoyed. I love you all. You are in my prayers today. Smokey's voice is a little tired. I don't know if I'm going to do something tonight. I'm going to think about it. If the spirit really presses something on me and encourages me to do, I will. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining and being here, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your day, and God bless you all. Peace and blessings.
Okay. Oops, I gotta set it off. What are we doing here? Oh, something else. Okay. All right, I gotta just do an adjustment here. Okay, and I'm good to go. Okay. So yeah, we got some discussion here. Remy's here. DNA. There's no Dan in any fish that ever lived for fur. DNA. Oh. We got Ronan. Ronan talking about sex again. Sex is the mechanism that drives evolution. Okay, well, if anybody's still here and would like to join the discussion, maybe I have time for it. I guess my StreamYard is going to run out anytime, so I don't know if I don't know exactly where it's at. But anyway, I'll just go ahead and put the link. Maybe we can talk a little bit. If somebody would like to join. So yeah, it was a good discussion. I enjoyed it. I wasn't, we were kind of relaxed a little bit, trying to work out the differences and figure out what's going on and stuff. Ronan's there.
Hello, Jungle Jargon.
Hello, Ronan. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay. Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
And so we're good to go. So we're really learning some science here, right, Ron?
Well, I mean, I do agree with speed of sound.
Oh,
You know,
you agree with his science?
yeah, because it's science.
Well, it's what you can know.
Pardon?
It's what you can know. Science is what you can know, but is his science something that can be known, what you can know?
Well, yeah, because he
Or is it some
obviously obviously has the information based on what
what
the general science community agrees.
what information? They has the information on how to write programming is not there?
Well, okay, this writing programming, I think it's a misnomer because
Oh,
what
well,
it
no,
is just
no.
the interaction, chemical bonds, right? Chemical bonds that make up the DNA strands.
Not
Okay,
really.
and
It's
adapt and
directed
and
chemistry, directed.
nothing is pre-programmed. It is that gene pool adapting to the environment over time.
Yeah, once you have a gene pool, then you can adapt to
Yeah,
environment. Yeah,
yes,
but the question is how you get the genome there in the first place.
adaptation.
No,
I can give you an example. I
that's
can
what I
give
was
you
trying to explain. If you go sideways and backwards evolution, you don't never going to get any forward evolution.
no. Evolution goes forward.
No writing of programming that's
Well,
not there.
again, there is no written program. It's just
Uh,
the chemical
Okay,
processes that
hold up right there. If it wasn't programming, you wouldn't be a human.
no. See, it's natural. It's organic. It's not mechanical. It's not from above. It's
But it's
organic.
but it's written instructions that orders you to be
No.
human specifically. Yes, 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 yes.
No. It's an exchange of information. Okay. And when that information is exchanged with the other 23 chromosomes, for example, you get a new version
Yes,
with
recombination
modification. You call them
of the same
mutations.
information. Recombination of the same pre-existing
No, it
written
can't be the same.
instructions.
It can't be the same because it can't be the
It
same
has to be the
forever.
same because it has to be compatible. If it's not the
No.
same, it's not compatible.
No. What happens is the gene pool adapts to the environment, and then there's the thing called stasis, right? It stays
Yeah,
that living entity stays the same
yeah. Stasis, I can
so
agree with
long
stasis.
so
Yeah.
long as the environment doesn't change.
I can agree with stasis. Well, stasis will mean that if you're a human, you're not going to change from being a human.
Right, right. But we will modify as
Yeah.
human
You
because
can get darker, shorter, smaller, taller,
yeah.
fatter,
Yeah,
whatever.
right. We've always been just as smart. It's just the amount of information that
But
child is given.
you'll always be a human or less of a human.
Well, less of a human would be some, like genetic shortcoming.
But
You
you'll
know,
never evolve into a superhuman.
no, you can't jump that. You can't jump to that. You can grow to it, but you can't jump to it.
You no, you can't get written instruction that's not there. And besides, there's no other higher life form than humans anyway.
Well, that's in on land, if you want to say, but you nor I can go into the deepest ocean without some form of artificial breathing device and protection.
That
So
has nothing to
we're
do with a
not
higher life form.
we're the highest form here, for ourselves, yeah, but we cannot live like an octopus at the bottom of the ocean 24/7 without artificial supply
Yeah,
of air for us.
we're
We
not we're not
human.
we're not octopuses.
Right. So we can't be the highest form of everything if something else is more powerful in their field or ocean, should I say. That's reality.
Yeah. Jeremy says, "How can you change what you don't have?" Sounds like a good question.
How can, well, you don't. Again, you adapt.
How
You don't make the decision.
How can you get what's not there?
You don't make the decision to for the next generation to be taller. People meet, they get together, make babies, and if the taller percentage in terms of gene structure is there, the body will obviously reflect it by being taller. Or if the short gene is more dominant, well, it'll be the child will be shorter. That's it. But it's not programmed from above. It's organic.
Okay, can you address this here?
What's that? Okay. You've got to be clear that not all change is the same kind of change. Certainly, we can't stay any kind of change and produce any kind. Hold on, give me a second here.
What are the limits and means of
Certainly, you
change?
can't say any kind of change can produce any kind of result.
Are there
What
limits to are there limits to the
okay, what are the limits in the meaning? Okay, the limits are within the gene pool over generations. Those are the limits. There will be some
which is what?
outliers that are a little more super powered
Can
in
your
terms of
arms
skill.
keep growing? Can your
What?
arms keep growing? Can your arms keep growing and growing and growing? Bigger and bigger and
As
bigger?
a child is growing up, yes, limbs get longer
No,
because
but in successive generations, how long can your arms be?
it depends again on the environment and adaptation thereof. If if a short person were going into a region where everybody was a tall person, right, and he marries one of the tall people, women, and they're going to have mid-sized children, tall children, and shorter children if they have that many children. It's just how it comes together with the 23 and 23. And that's part of nature, whereby if you had a million butterflies, for example, and then there was a mutation that gave a butterfly a spot in the back of its head, right? But the other butterflies have little eyeballs on each one of their little wings. And then the one with the spot on its head gets predated by the birds, all of them. So the following generations, there would not be as many butterflies with a spot on their head, but there'd be more butterflies with the spots on their wings because they did not fall victim to predation at the same percentage.
Did they scare the birds?
They what?
Did they scare the birds with the eyes on the wing?
No, no. Well, yeah, that's a natural adaptation that helps.
That
No,
took a while.
no guarantees there, but then again, there's some butterflies that eat certain pollen, right, or whatever they eat pollen, right, and that pollen could be poisonous, for example, and so the birds know because of the wing pattern. Nope, we don't eat those. So
Oh yeah.
they adapted a defense. Okay, that's what that is. Adaptation to the environment over time.
Okay, but they still remain a butterfly, though, right?
Well, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
because they reached, like you said, stasis. Yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
what they are at that time for what they're doing. Now, if we jump forward a billion years, I
And
don't
they,
know. I don't know if their butterflies will be bigger,
okay, wait
smaller,
a minute.
have a different pattern. What?
Do you know what a billion years is?
A what?
Do you know what a billion years is?
It's a long time. But
Yeah.
again, I'm referring to our evolution in the billions of years.
You know what would happen in a billion years?
A lot of things. But again, it's up to the gene pool to adapt to the environment. That's how it
About
goes organically. That's nature.
about 15 million years. You know what would happen in 15 million years?
No, I can't predict that. We might not be here.
Yeah,
We don't know
you,
if an asteroid's going to hit us. Our own Earth
you
decides.
don't you don't know in 15 million years. You wouldn't know if there would be any continents
I don't know.
existing
That's right because I can kind of
because they would all
find.
wash away. They would all erode into the ocean.
We don't
In
know
15,
because
yeah, we
if
do
something,
know.
put it this
We
way: if something erodes into the
we
ocean,
do know.
something.
Yeah.
Okay, let me finish. If something erodes into the ocean, there'll be other land that the ocean will produce. Because currently,
Igneous rock, maybe.
Hawaii it
Igneous rock.
was formerly volcanic area, right where Hawaii is right now.
Yeah, igneous rock.
Yeah,
Not
and
sediment
it
layers, not
rose
with fossils.
and it rose from the ocean bottom. So
Not,
if our continents keep crashing into each other in a billion years, there'll still be other land
but
above
there won't
water.
be sediment layers with fossils in them over a mile deep around the world.
Okay, that's how
Okay.
it was established. That's
Okay, so why do you think there was millions of years in the past, since 12 million years would have eroded them all away and there would
because
be
it's
only igneous
well,
rock
because it's
left?
organic, not mechanical. If you want to talk artificial, we can talk dog breeds. That's
I
artificial,
think you missed what I said. If
huh?
I think you missed what I said.
No, I
If
know exactly what you're saying, but
if
you don't want to accept the fact that evolution
I'm
happened.
saying, how can there be millions of years when 15 million years would have washed all the continents away?
But it didn't, did it?
No, so
It
that means there
it's
wasn't
not,
15. That
it's
means there wasn't 50 million years.
no, it's not based on our predictions. Our predictions could be wrong because nature is
No,
going to do what it's going to do.
it's not wrong. It's
So
science.
within reason, we can predict something's going to
It's
happen.
science. It's the
That's
rate. It's the
that's
current
fine,
rate of
huh?
erosion. At the current rate of erosion, there would have been no
But
continents
you don't know.
after 15
No,
million years. We
no,
do know. That's what
no,
we know.
no.
We know that for a fact. Well, I'm kind of like a little bit bored here. Let me see. What do we got here? It seems to me natural selection and mutation is not powerful enough engine to produce every biological structure. Many evolutionists are looking for other sources of change which they're not finding.
No, you edited. You added in there.
Which they're not finding. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying which they are not finding. No, they're finding plenty of stuff. If you go to the right channels, they'll explain more than you ever imagined about evolution. But you don't want to do that because
No.
you want to
No, they're
believe
not finding any other mechanism.
you want to, again, from your mind, you want to believe in your higher power, and you
No,
have.
the only mechanism is changing what's already there, and that's backwards and sideways evolution.
Well,
Which
you can say that, but if you present it as a paper, that way you can test, what you're saying is true or not, because those people that
no, we
have
already
with the science, whatever specific science that is, they'll respond to you.
we already know that much.
If you keep running up against these walls, there must be something with your direction because you can't find the door. You have to be able to explain it on their terms, and you can't. And I know you can't because again, it's from your mind what you want to
No,
believe.
they have never established a mechanism for evolution or if
I can,
evolution ever occurred.
I can prove evolution to you if you think you ever had great grandparents. In your family bloodline, somebody got married and is going to have great grandchildren. So if you start from the great grandparents and skip over to the great grandchildren, that's microevolution.
No,
Macroevolution would
they
be
were
when our
humans.
species started and it's still in the toddler stage.
They were humans.
What's that?
They were humans.
Right, but they came from something else, the ape.
No, they came from humans.
We just happen to be apes with higher order thinking
No,
skills.
but you're making claims, but you don't have a mechanism for evolution.
I, I I just explained if you know you had great grandparents and skipped over to great grandchildren.
That's
That's
not a mechanism.
microevolution.
That's not a mechanism for evolution.
Macroevolution, if we're talking about our species, is
I don't
when
think you
we first
understand.
started from 180 to 210,000 years
I
ago,
don't think
and
you
we're still
understand what
toddlers
evolution.
in our evolutionary curve.
I don't
What's
think
that?
you understand what evolution would require, or that there is no evidence of evolution.
You're just saying something. You're not backing it up with science. That's why
No,
it's unacceptable, because it's from your mind.
but
Which you,
evolution was
look,
never.
you have the right to have things come from your mind, but you cannot claim a
No, no,
reality unless you provide evidence. And
you are claiming evolution, but you are not
science
true.
has provided evidence that
No.
proves evolution.
Check this out. You are claiming evolution, but you are not showing us a mechanism for it.
The mechanism I told you in text is sex. Okay? It's
No,
sex.
that doesn't write instruction.
If there is no sex, that
That doesn't write instruction
if
is
there
not
is
there.
no sex, reproduction,
Here you go. Try this.
biological entity becomes extinct.
Here's one for you.
Understand that.
Here's
I
one for
already
you.
explained macroevolution because of the beginning
Because of
our
sex,
species to
that-
now and in the future.
you know that when you have
Macro
sex,
aspect of evolution, because I explained microevolution by using the great great grandparent to the great great grandchildren. That's
Ronan,
micro. Macro is from the beginning of our species and on forward.
you know that
From here. That's
you
the
know that when the egg is fertilized,
and the mechanism that drives it is reproduction. Without reproduction, you become extinct.
you know that
It's the mechanical
when the egg,
reality of existence.
Ronan, cut it out. You know when the egg is fertilized, you're exchanging instruction, but it's copies of instruction that was already there. You're not getting new instruction.
Half copies from each parent.
You're not getting new instruction. You're only copying what was already there. You're not writing new instruction to be any other thing other than the human.
Copy is different from the original. So the third would
it's recombination of the same information.
Be the mixing of the two copies to produce another copy that's similar.
It's always recombination of the same information that's already there. And if there are already changes, you're changing instruction. You're changing written instruction that was already there. You're not
the example.
You're not writing. You're not writing new programming that was never there.
Excuse me. The example of artificial mutation would be dog breeds. Okay, they're all from the original Canis lupus, the wolf.
Yeah, but
they're all
explain how change is going to write programming that's not there.
Artificial selection, because they wanted to promote a specific mutation.
Ronan, explain how reproduction is going to change what's there. I mean, a right program. How's that going to? If you change what's already there, how are you going to write programming that's not there?
Reproduction attempts to modify the gene pool to interact with the environment.
And it fails, apparently.
Some make it, some don't. The ones that make it get to reproduce.
So changing what's there is not going to write programming that's not there.
That's nature. That's reality.
But I'm a little bit bored right now, Ronan, and I was talking for a while, so I think I'll just cut it short.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm glad to talk to you, because if I wasn't talking to you, I'd probably be talking to nobody.
Well, they've called me a nobody, but that's good enough for me. Anytime. I mean, I found it that you were up, and I said, "Hey, yeah, let's listen to Jungle Jargon for a little while."
Okay.
Oh no, but you went through that whole hangout there, and that's pretty cool. But again,
that was pretty neat. You like that discussion? I thought it was pretty good. Yeah.
But again, being myself, honest with you, and anybody, I happen to agree with speed of sound because he was obviously sharing information that came from
which
science.
wasn't any for information at all. But anyways, okay. Thanks, Ronan.
Okay, so, you're welcome. Well, take care.
Okay, I'll see. And that's about it. I got a whole 5 people watching right now, and it's too bad I got to cut it short. But anyways, maybe I can be back later, and hopefully I won't use up all my StreamYard time. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see everybody again. Take care.